fun times.
Where exactly on Bow Creek was the homestead, that first one?
I never did know. I never got the legal description. I would guess it would be up there, my guess, the way my granddad used to, real close to where the southern farm is. Where the southerns, now Leonard Arthur Dix owns that, but I think it was close to the southern farm. Because they were so low on water, unless you had the ponds and a windmill and something behind the pond dam to get water or catch it off the house in those days, they had to go up to Bow Creek and set a trap and put it in 55-gallon wooden crocks. And Granddad talked when he was a kid, they went back to that area, and that's where they actually got water. The dirty 30s, they had to go up there all the time. They had to downsize their cow herds, keep 2 milk cows and 5 stock cows and 10 sows and water them, but you did it all with 5-gallon buckets and 55-gallon drums because there was no water. And that's my granddad. I think that's the reason he wasn't quite as aggressive as Dad and some of the other Muirs in the family. He went through the dirty 30s, but he made it. And a lot of people struggled. Yeah. A lot of people didn't lose the farm. There were some that did, but a lot of them damn near starved. And thank God there were some projects going around that, you know, they could do to get a job to help get enough money to feed their family. But he did make it. He did it by working in the oil wells and in the wintertime, and then farming and coming back here and farming in the summertime. He could hire a hired man back in the 20s for 50 cents a day. You know, and he milked the cows and took care of everybody. So
how far from the Bow Creek Cemetery is this?
Let's see. The Bow Creek Cemetery is right, course right off 183. So the Bow Creek Cemetery is right, course right off 183. So it'd be what, Royce, half mile back east and a mile and a half back east to our farm, and then 3 miles south.
Okay.
Should be about right. Then where Royce and Andy and them lived, it was their farm was just on Pine Street, the old highway. That was only half mile from the Bow Creek Cemetery.
Okay, as an outsider, that helps me place it.
Yeah, does that kind of give you an idea?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and where Verl Muir lived, where Charlie Groner lived, Verl Muir bought that, still owns it, of course, and there was a community well there. And finally in the 30s, they figured out how to pump water, and they didn't have to go set a screen over a barrel of a 55 wooden barrel in the bottom of Bow Creek to catch water. They finally had a community well where they had a pump on it. And Roger researched that. There was another well down by where Tony McReynolds owns, down in that little valley north where you live, on the ranch down there. I think there's still a little old pump in there, isn't there?
Well, yeah, the well.
So they finally got wells that sped it up. They could get more storage. They finally figured out they could make cast iron tanks, get a 500-gallon tank, and hell, that was like a whole new world. Imagine handling 55-gallon barrels in the back of a wagon by yourself with a team of horses and having to get it to the cows and to the house for family use. I mean, it's amazing. All of us here have ancestry that it's scary how hard they worked, but still had a pretty good life.
Well, your mother, Nancy, always liked to tell the story that she raised those 5 boys without a bathroom in her house.
Yeah.
And she took a hot bath every night before she went to bed. She went out and got water.
Yeah, out of a hand pump.
Yeah.
I was the oldest, so I got volunteered to do that. And then she'd put it on a gas stove. We had propane, and then Mom would, all the kids would be in bed, and she'd take a bath. So, and like me, we all milked cows back in those days. I drove a tractor at 8, raked hay, mowed hay, and then I started milking cows when I was 9. And Mom and Dad actually milked 10 cows. And Mom did a lot of that on her own when Dad was out in the field. So, for being a city girl, she did quite a little too. Yeah, I know Shirley got in on that too.
I wasn't a city girl.
No, you were a farm girl. But,
I was a farm girl.
yeah.
And Nancy had told about how when she dated Dick and they decided to get married, her mother would not help her with the wedding.
Nope.
She didn't want her to marry Dick because he was a farmer.
She didn't want him marrying a farmer. She didn't want Mom marrying a farmer.
So when she moved to the farm, she didn't know anything, and she depended on Shirley and her neighbors.
Yeah.
Freddie Boffman.
Freddie Boffin was a huge.
Yeah, she was more fun.
Yeah. Freddie kinda taught Mom how to cook. Mom never really cooked before. And Shirley was always out there, and they've been close all their lives. But, yeah, Mom, she did pretty well for basically a total city girl. She raised 4 boys and 1 girl, and put up with a lot of ornery creatures, and kept the farm going, so. But Dad was a worker. I think everybody knows that. He just worked, and he was very progressive though. It helped him get ahead. And everybody had to have a lick, having a good wheat crop or raising some milo back then. But the strong point was usually, if you had it paid for, it was a cow herd. The cattle were always good on a collateral sheep.
I know a funny story. Your dad was ornery. Anyway, I know a funny story that he told once. Nancy had made some kind of a pie or something, you know, one day, and he came in the house and he says, "Oh, is Claire May Riffle come by?"
Oh, that had to be a real tense moment. Of course, Claire May was a gourmet cook, and everybody in Old Township knew her and envied her. So that had to be a thing.
Where was Nancy from?
Salina. Yep. She went to Salina High. Graduated in 1950. Then her and Dad went to Kansas Westland. Dad went down there and played football, and Mom was going down there, and that's how they got hooked up. So, I don't know. There's a lot of other stories. I can't tell you all of them, but when I was a kid, though, everybody had kids. But I went to a country school for a couple of years, and I was the only kid in my class, and it was K through 8, and it was where, I can't even tell you where it's at now. It was about right here, actually. It would be here on section 122. There's nothing left. Dave Boffin owns it now.
Yeah.
But we had a school there, and one teacher, Lillian Yoakum, she drove down every day from Phillipsburg. She was a great teacher. And we had, back then, kindergarten was like 6 weeks. And so I was the first grader, and my sister Dana and Larry Riffle and Randy Boffin were the kindergartners. And I just thought it was cool to have some kids to play with, because everybody else, there was a bunch of Dixes there. They were all from the 6th grade on up. And so anyway, and the Wagner kids went there, everybody around went to that school. And actually going to town school was kind of a shock, because I was kind of spoiled to be the only one in my class, so I had to readjust. And on a given day, after we consolidated about all of them, some of the Dixes went to Woodson, most of them, the rest of them came to Stockton, from out in that area. You could see a bus from Glade. Glade had a grade school. Kerwin had a high school. Woodson had a high school. You could see 4 buses in most every other morning, picking up neighbor kids that you played with all the time. So that was part of rural America we'll never have again, but it was kind of neat at the time. To imagine Kerwin don't even have a gas station, that they had a school for all those years. I mean, you know, Woodson had a heck of a school. I mean, Steve probably went to Woodson. They had a nice school down there. So a lot of kids in Ash Rock and the eastern part of Lanark, a lot of them went into Woodson. So Woodson, I think, had busing in Woodson before Stockton did. Ain't that right, Steve? They always had busing when you was a kid, didn't they?
When I started school, Harold Young picked me up in his car,
Okay.
and he grabbed some Crow kids over south of the river and come around, pick us up, and pick up Dunlaps, and I think that's about it, and then take us to town.
Yeah.
He had his own little bus route going.
Yeah.
When I went to country school, of course I was real little, but Velma, Lee Bartlett's wife, Velma Bartlett, was also the school cook. And old Lee, and they had Judy Bartlett, who was about Roger's age. She graduated in 65 from Stockton. Judy and Velma and Lee would come in an old truck, a real old truck, probably a Model T, I would guess. And they'd pick me up on the road by the driveway. And believe me, Velma Bartlett's cooking was very good in those days. You could eat all you wanted. There wasn't no shortage of good food. So that was always something. Does anybody else got any questions or anything? I mean, my story just kind of covers a broad area, but we're fortunate to enjoy the people we grew up with, and we've had a good life with that, and from the hard work from our ancestry, and still got the old, all of us, I think, has got a Scottish crest yet, so we're pretty diehard Scotchmen.
So we thank you for bringing it to us
Yeah.
tonight.
And as I talk, my daughter Amy, I think a lot of you know her, she's over in Ireland right now, on a tour. And today, the Irish, they wear kilts and the bagpipes as well. They got that from the Scottish. And they were met at this old castle by a guy playing the bagpipes and had his kilt on. And that was on, she sent a picture of that today, and it was a huge castle over there. But she's really enjoyed that. But my aspirations are to try to go to Scotland sometime. I'd like to go to that Alloway churchyard where all the old Muirs are buried, Muir Kirks. Mom and Dad went, and maybe Shirley's been there, I don't know. Did you ever go to Scotland?
We went to Edinburgh.
Oh, you went to Edinburgh,
Just went
okay.
on the train and
But I'd like to go right to Ayrshire and Lanark and do that. I don't know if I ever will, but
Better not put it off.
it's on my bucket list. But I've been very fortunate to have these people I mentioned that got me interested in history. But Dr. Oliva, he's really a pleasure to talk to, and he knows history all over. He knows the whole state of Kansas history. And he is.